and we're not just live. First of all, I always forget, this is Dr. Tova Goldfein, and this is TMS Roundtable, Healing Chronic Pain, helping you self-heal chronic pain and autoimmune symptoms. This is live in a very special way tonight and in the morning with our guest, Tara Coyote. Did I say it correctly? From Hawaii. We have not been blessed with someone from Hawaii in my virtual studio. And now my virtual studio has just been elevated, not only because you're living in Hawaii, it's because you are you. And your story is, I want to say unbelievable, but I don't want people to think it's not believable. Like, miracles are happening all the time. And, a very famous person said, to believe in miracles, you need to be a realist. So here we are. Tara Coyote, I met you on Facebook through mutual friends, through Dana Crossbroad and Chrisana from Love Heals. So we had this connection, and I saw your story, and I wanted to bring it to my listeners, to my community, and to anyone that wants to see the power of the body, the brain, the nervous system, the immune system, the power of faith. I feel like I'm going to do a sermon now, the power of God. Enough. Anyway, so I'd love you to, first of all, introduce yourself, and just, I'll guide you, because how I like to frame it is to kind of have a timeline. Well, if you grew up, you had this kind of childhood, you were living, I think, in California, and then this kind of happened. If you can kind of go through that slowly, I think our listeners will really get to know you.
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. Aloha. I'm Tara Coyote from Kaua'i, Hawaii. Let's see. Yes, brief childhood info. I grew up in Northern California. My parents were both biologists, bird watchers, safari leaders around the world. I was very fortunate to travel a lot because they led wildlife safaris around the globe. So I was very exposed to a lot of different cultures and environments. Wow. So I grew to have a deep love for the environment and am therefore an environmentalist now. Let's see. I had my son very young. I was 22. I was a single mom when I had him. I became very strong to raise him on my own. Let's see, this very young, just sort of nomadic type, just loved to dance and this and that. I traveled a lot. I was fortunate to live in other countries. I had an import business to Bali for a long time. I lived in Italy for a while. I'm just going to fast forward many years later. This comes into the illness part of it. My best friend was diagnosed, and I was in my 40s now, with acute myeloid leukemia. My best friend of 19 years at the age of 44, and I became one of her main caretakers for 2 years from her diagnosis to her death. And she sadly died at the age of 46, and it was very, very traumatic for me. At that point, I was working with horses in a therapeutic way, with humans. I had a horse retreat center in Northern California. Wow. And I started doing, after her death, I was just so torn apart by grief. I started doing grief rituals with horses for people to help release grief.
Like the horse whisperer? Would you say like the horse whisperer?
I don't know if I'd say horse whisperer, because that's sort of a, I don't know if I'm quite bold enough to say that, but I did work with people with horses. I didn't work with horses in that matter. It was more like working with humans at a therapeutic.
Right. Well, that's what, anyway, so it just sounds like it, but I'm just making a point of how maybe your physiology began to change, because of your friend and the grief, and how it, right. And how you were able to channel that into helping others. And that's sometimes what happens. We forget to take something, like there's a disconnect and something happens, like we immediately go to helping others, and then obviously your body's something. So let's continue talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting to, is that a year after she died, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So it was a very They say people who go through cancer, like it's usually in 2 years before, there's all these traumatic things that happen. So for me, I had left my marriage, I had moved, my best friend died, but it was a lot of the pain over her death. Like I was diagnosed almost exactly 1 year after she died with my left breast right over my heart.
Wow.
So I just like to share that because that was a little bit of, obviously
No, it's
how it
important.
began. And as far as the cancer journey goes, I decided to take an exclusively natural route of treatment. I had a lot of trauma from being with my best friend at the hospital for months and everything she went through. And I had always been a natural girl. So I refused chemo, surgery, radiation. I did it my own way. I was doing well. I did that for a few years. I was doing very well until a very stressful incident occurred and I was forced to give up my ranch, my horse retreat center in Northern California. And during that time, it was like a year of immense stress, and the cancer spread from my breast to my lungs, my liver, my spine, my adrenal gland. It was all through my bones. I moved home here to Kaua'i, Hawaii, which is where my father is from. And in the winter of 2019, I was referred to hospice. I was choking. I was coughing so much. I had to sit up to sleep for months. I was on oxygen all the time. I was walking with a cane because my left hip was breaking. I was losing weight. It was pretty darn dramatic. And the doctors here.
At this point, did you still refuse chemo?
Well, the doctors here, they were very kind and they weren't pushy like they were in Northern California. And they said, you might want to consider doing chemotherapy, even though you don't want to. It might save your life. And at that point, my son was 26, and I had seen so many of my friends die young with, kids my son's age because they refused allopathic treatment. So I thought, okay, well, I don't want to leave my son alone. I'm going to find the courage to do this. And so I did end up doing 9 months of chemotherapy. During that time, I still kept up my natural treatments, vitamin IVs to keep my immune system strong. That was very important.
Absolutely. It's just, it's just a chemical coming in and moving through, and, we get toxic, but we move it through. It's just like anything, you're strong, your thoughts are stronger, your chemicals much stronger than any of that radiation. And, I think I told you I had a very good friend who, would go into chemo and call it chemo ecstasy. She was going to overpower. And I believe you, that's what you did. You were like, okay, chemo, we're going to have a relationship with you. Let's talk about how this is going to happen and where you belong in my body.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought of it as healing nectar, actually, because before I was in the public eye and I was talking about how chemo kills. And I had already had a social media following. So I had to switch my thoughts around to chemo kills to chemo will heal me, which I did, which was a major feat.
Listen, it can be exactly what this woman did with it. Like, okay, so I'm doing the chemo, but I'm in control of what that chemo is going to do. And that's exactly what you're saying in different words.
Exactly.
What was your social media was about your horses, or you're writing a book at the time?
Well, no, I had been sharing my journey of healing cancer naturally for years. I'd already been talking and conferences and making videos. I mean, I was talking about doing the horse work too, but it was mainly
while you were healing and while your body was breaking down, you were involved in this educating.
well, it had been a few years. I'd already been journeying with cancer for 3 years or so. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So wait, so you're in hospice, and is this when you decided to do the chemo, or because like hospice is one part of a hospital, experience, and then just being in radical, cancer treatments another part. To separate, like, tell us what was going on, because the hospice thing is just, I can imagine what you were going through.
Well, I wasn't in hospice. I was referred to it. They said, if you want to, you can enter hospice. And I said, no, I'm going to try to live here. I'm going to try to get through it. So I wasn't actually in it, just to be absolutely clear. But yeah, I ended up doing 9 months of chemotherapy. And during that time, I almost died a few times. I ended up breaking my left hip due to bone metastasis, and I had to have emergency double hip surgery and learn to walk again. Um, and
God.
basically, I finished treatment in February 2020 with amazing results. The cancer had shrunk throughout my body. I still had it, though. I still had cancer in my body. And I continued on and just living with it and doing my natural treatments. But then it was about a year and a half ago, I was told I was NED, no evidence of disease. So it was pretty miraculous. Like, I never thought I would reach that place because I had such a cancer load throughout my body. I never dreamed I'd be told I was NED. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I'm very, very grateful to be alive right now.
Of course, but tell me, like, what other, I mean, for the listeners, besides, you had a goal, you had a mission. You're like, I want to live for my son. Okay, because you said I had friends that had died young and when their children were young. So you were motivated. You had a reason to want to live. And other people we all have reasons to want to live. I mean, people, of course, there's a lot of research about the fear of dying is greater than the wanting to live. So obviously, talk a little bit about your fear. Were you scared of dying?
It wasn't so much fear of death. I've had a lot of friends die young from cancer too. My best friends died at the age of 46, 47. My parents just died in the last few years. So it's been a lot of death. I was trained as a death doula. I had volunteered hospice before. So I've been very much involved in the death world. So it wasn't so much fear of death. It was really wanting to live and not wanting to give up and just seeing how beautiful nature is and, to be here for my son. So yeah. And, I know I'm going to die sometime, as we all are, but I am determined to stay alive as long as I can and take it day by day. And
So
when I die, I die.
what actually did you drink? What did you smoke? What did you ingest? What did you meditate on? Did you journal? Did you, pray to, like we'd love to hear exactly some of the things that you did because, most of us, I don't know anyone that lives in Hawaii but you now. So it's a beautiful nature. I mean, look, there's nature everywhere. There's nature. We live in a magnificent, magnificent globe, and there's nature, gorgeous nature everywhere. And it's also how we see our world. We can see, a tree and be blown away by its beauty. So it's the relationship. You had this beautiful relationship with nature, and you happen to be around beautiful. Can you talk more about that and other things that you might have done?
Yeah, well, certainly there's a lot of healing power to living in Hawaii. And I talk about this in my book, Grace, Grit, and Gratitude, a
Oh,
cancer survivor's journey from hospice to full recovery with the healing power of horses.
look at you. I want to see that again. Hold it up again. Oh my God.
It's also an audio book too. It's
Look at
on
your gorgeous face and hair and oh God. When did you anyway, so go ahead. So talk about the first answer to that question, then I want to talk more about the book.
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of mana. They call it power here in Hawaii, in the ground, in the earth. So I do believe that really helped me. There's also, I talk about in my book, Aloha Ma. It's self-reflective love. It's a Hawaiian term my dear Hawaiian friend uses. It's about the power of self-love to heal oneself. So I feel like that has been a big part of it.
I just want our listeners people know I'm going to say this. They know my MO. Love is chemical. Awareness is changing your brain. A loving, accepting, compassionate relationship with the body is a chemical reaction, and you're like carving a new pathway. And you cannot heal a body you hate. So obviously, you were loving your cancer full body full of cancer. You were loving it. How did you do that? You just made a decision.
Well, when I was first diagnosed too, I never thought about fighting or hating cancer. There's this prevalent idea in society to fight cancer. And I never thought about that. I thought, okay, well, my body produced this for a reason. So I am not going to hate it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to love it out of my body because it's here to teach me a lesson.
You met your cancer. We call it, you met your cancer.
I met it. Yes. Yeah. And, you know, because there is a reason for it to be here. And I think that's a big reason why it's gone, is because I was like, okay, you can exist here. I'm going to love you, but I'm going to continue to live. So there's something to be said when we fight something, we're just creating more of a sense of stress in the body, and the body needs to be in a parasympathetic state to heal, which is rest and relax, rather than sympathetic, which is fight, flight. I mean, you know all this, but
very smart. Can never say that enough. Never enough. And Gila, who I don't know if she's listening, but she's in UK now. She's a lovely woman, and I always thought, I think I told you, she had a tumor around her heart so large, and they weren't finding it, like, for some reason. Then someone finally saw something and went in and did a biopsy, and she came out of this short little treatment, and she said, why didn't you go in through my neck to check this tumor? And they said, well, we tried to, but your body had created a bypass. See, the tumor had cut off her cervical artery and she would have been dead, but her body created a new artery to bring blood to her brain. And she's like, I'm going to question my body. Look what it did to save me. And she's the one who talks about, chemo ecstasy. And she'll talk right to your face, and she'll say, I miss my cancer and it teaches me a lot. And I really miss it. Like, it really was important in my life and it taught me so much. And like, she's this, that way. And I feel like this is the kind of the way you have to be, this radical, so go ahead. So continue. So the self-love and compassion, the nature.
And the thoughts too, I really believe in the work of Joe Dispenza and really creating my own reality with my thought forms. Like, I never thought of myself as sick, although when I was really sick, I had to admit that, I'm not doing well, but I always thought of myself as healing. So that played a big part of it too, and not playing the victim within my own mind, because our society teaches us to be victims. So switching that around to a place of empowerment is vitally important.
Wow. Really, really, so true. And we're not here to bash the medical system. We're here to integrate with it, understand it. Doctors do their job, and many people here can't heal cancer, and that's it. They don't even. But the process you went through and how you evolved with it is a testament to, look, the integrated Joe Dispenza is a neuroscientist. He's not like, airy fairy, he reads the science. I mean, everything that we do in this mind body world comes from a scientific place. It's just not the medical model. It's a different model. And many of us, I recommend we integrate it, and you did. And that's why I'm glad you look, in the beginning, you didn't think you needed chemo. You were like, I can do this.
Right.
And maybe you think, well, if my best friend would have done this, if my best friend would have done this, I don't know what people's karma is in life, like if they would have lived. And the fact is, that's not the reality. She, her soul's gone on, but you integrated it. And I don't hear you bashing doctors. I hear you understanding this process in this loving, gentle way.
True. I do think that everybody's doing the best we can. I mean, I do believe that our Western medical system could benefit with more natural medicine, but that's a whole nother topic.
Right. So there are more and more doctors who you will find on the internet who are talking this talk and walking this walk. And that's why people, and it's most important that people are educated. And so what you're doing with your social media and what I'm doing with this is educating people to be a pain in the neck patient, to go in and ask a question, and ask another question, and ask another question, be informative, because we become these people pleasers, or these, like we grew up in a world that doctor is God, and I was going to say something funny. Like I use the word doctor. I'm a chiropractor for 40 years, which is a doctor of chiropractic. And I always say, I fart and burp like anybody else. Don't give me any power. Don't give me any of your power. I'm giving it right back to you. Enough where my logo says like the doctor in you. Like I'm a little extreme because I probably thought doctors were God. I mean, my mother I grew up with my mother who had MS, and it put me into a world that I don't think anyone should have to go into, watching your mother, become a vegetable, and through the medical system. Though she did macrobiotics and had an incredible remission, but didn't stick with it. And I think that's what made me a relentless kind of like healer, because she could have gotten help if she had the knowledge. And now I want people to have the knowledge. And obviously somewhere in your life and your journey, Tara, you are like, something is driving you to heal others. And so, what do you think about that when you think about where you're at now, alive and kicking, and a mermaid with a real mermaid suit, and in the waters and going under and breathing for like 3 or 4 minutes under there? I'm watching your Facebook page and your videos.
Oh.
Talk more about
Not
that.
quite 3 or 4 minutes yet, but I hope to get there.
Okay, amazing lungs.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for giving other people hope and faith and that ability to heal. That's so many people think, oh, I have stage 4 cancer, that means I'm going to die. But no, it doesn't have to. It's really like finding that will to live. And like, we are infinite, powerful beings that they're, all this brain space we're not using. I think there's a lot to be said for the power of miracles and believing in the power of healing.
I want to just respond to that, because I have not had this doctor in my English show yet, but she's in Israel. She's a Russian scientist, and she's now an integrative doctor, and she even says the words in big letters, miracle, on her website. She her father had a disease, and the doctor said, okay, it's genetic, and he's going to die in this amount, and so are you. Like, this was it. And she was like, okay, I got to look at this in the face. And he died in those many months. And she's like, okay, I need to look at this. And again, she's a scientist. She's living here in Israel, but she's Russian, a beautiful woman named Naida Alexander. And she began to study and realize that this was, it wasn't a death sentence. It was basically what her father had heard. And he went ahead, and she doesn't have the disease. She's living a long life. And she started to study disease, people who healed from pain and disease. And this was her results in our study. 100 people, different diseases, different pain. She finds a common denominator of how these people survived chronic pain or healed chronic pain, survived various diseases. And you know what it was? Exactly what you're saying. These people made a decision. They made an emotional, physiological, spiritual, deeply quantum decision that they were going to live. And their body followed suit. Yep. And so this is not news anymore. I was like, Tara's coming on my show. She healed cancer. I'm like, this is going to be a wonderful broadcast. But this is going to be the supermarket. All the aisles are going to be healing. There'll be one little aisle where someone didn't heal. Like, we go in the supermarket, we have one aisle of health food. This is the future. This is the present. And your story is just, I'll always be blown away, because I can imagine the fear. How about the anger? How about like you talked about grief, and maybe your grief maybe there was some anger, like you couldn't help maybe there was part of that. Like, I don't know what else, because the emotions are all processed here on the amygdala. with pain and anger and fear and shame. And, I couldn't imagine, what are some of the deep emotions? Did you journal? Did you write? I mean, you wrote a couple of books. Was that while you were healing?
Oh, yes, yes. My book is all my writing from years, starting from my husband and I split up, and then my best friend was diagnosed, and then I was diagnosed with cancer. So yeah, it starts a few years before I was diagnosed. So my book is pretty much a compilation of writings that I did for years and years. And during the pandemic, I spent a year and a half just like piecing it together and editing it. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of different emotions in there for sure. Grief and anger and sadness, and every emotion has its place with it. And it's so vitally important to express and release your emotions too.
So important. Do you think, do you think, I mean, journaling is one of the somatic tools that I recommend, and it can be, neurologically taking the thoughts from the paper affect your brain. You went ahead and you were doing this throughout your healing. And obviously you have other books I know that you've written. I'd love you to get the other books about the children. Do you have that with you? The other books? Can you show
Yeah,
us
I've
different
written
books?
some kids books. My latest one is Kaua'i, the Hawaiian mermaid. It's based on the true story of a sperm whale that washed up here on the coast of Kaua'i, choked by garbage, basically. Um, and so it's an ocean conservation book. There's a thick resource section in the back talking about coral reefs and whales and reducing plastic. And then my other book is Comanche the Wild Mustang. Talks about my wild Mustang Comanche and how he's been such a healing force. And it talks about
Wow.
my healing journey too. And it's
Wow.
basically a wild horse conservation book. And then I have the coloring book version of that. So
Amazing. Wow. So much creativity kind of expressing and moving through. And it's not easy to write a book. It's not easy to, they get it published, and, you have enormous endurance.
thank you. I self-published, actually. I learned how to do it. So it's pretty easy once you learn how to do it. It's a lot of work, but it's pretty
I
fun.
hear that from people. That's also amazing. So the journaling is something that I would love you to talk about, because it's not easy for some of us. And it's not something, you don't have to journal to heal chronic pain or disease, but I call it visiting yourself. And a lot of us don't want to visit ourselves. And you had to be with yourself on so many different levels. And throughout that, you loved yourself. You accepted yourself. You didn't fight. You talk about that a bit in your journey?
Uh, yeah, self-love. That goes back to Aloha Ma, self-reflective love, which is what I talk about a lot. It's really about loving these parts of ourselves. Our society teaches us to be so critical of the way we look and the way we are, and always like, you're not enough, you're not enough. Like, you have to keep up with the neighbors and get the nicer car, whatever, whatever. But it's really like stopping and taking time to really, really love yourself with where you are at, wherever that is. Just really being present in the moment. Like, what do I need to do to nurture myself? Do I need to stop and read a book? Do I need to take a bath? Do I want to be with friends? And it goes pretty deep. And I think it's also a big part of my healing was choosing to be around healthy people, to step out of more toxic relationships, so to speak, have clear boundaries, and really respect myself. And of course, this is a lifelong lesson, so I'm still
No,
learning
this
it.
this is this is this is key. This is key in this healing. And a lot of people, they do have to get divorced to heal, because they're not in a supportive environment. It's very big in the field about,
Yeah.
don't, and it's not for us to decide what other people need to do. They need to know themselves enough, and also change. Change is hard. Change is hard. And it sounds like you've been through a few lifetimes in your life so far and had to change. And you probably wanted to put your foot on the brake, and you were just like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you and take my foot off this brake, and go and change.
Yes. Yes. It really requires stepping up. I see there's a question
Yeah,
there.
here's a message from Dr. Zachary. Dr. Zach Weiser is also an amazing chiropractor and very deep spiritual soul. He's a colleague of mine and a good friend. And here's his question. Maybe you'd like to answer it. You made the decision. How did one believe one's decision? We're so educated to believe the science. How did you stop believing the science and truly decide to believe you will heal?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so yeah, thank you for that question. I never look up statistics online. It's pretty scary if you look up
You
like
don't Google? You don't Google?
I mean, I have to look, but then I'm quick, like, don't even look. Like stage 4 breast cancer survival statistics are pretty darn grim. So, so yeah, how do I not believe? I just, so again, it goes into the work of Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, to really believe outside this bubble of what science says, like, oh, stage 4 breast cancer people have this much time to live. It's like, no, I am so beyond a statistic. I'm not going to put myself in that box. So I think it's just believing in the infinite potential of healing, really, and shifting those thoughts. I did a lot of the work of Byron Katie, which is about questioning your thoughts and turning it around. And my dear friend Bethany Webb, who wrote My Guru Cancer, helped me a lot. She does the work of Byron Katie. When I was facing my fear of doing chemo, to turn my thoughts around to think it's poison, to it'll heal. So I got that way of thinking pretty much ingrained in my brain, to question my thoughts. And this goes into every arena of thoughts, limiting thoughts. Whether it's about anything, really.
Right. And this is Dispenza's, I'm quoting Dispenza. And again, on the record, Dr. Dispenza's a chiropractor. So am I. And so is Zach. So, we come from this, we have this incredible philosophy, being a chiropractor, from the universe, that we have this innate intelligence, and it's connected to universal intelligence. And that's just deep. And we're taught that in philosophy. And there's a beautiful philosophy of medicine, heal thyself, and the way medicine was. So I think nothing's new under the sun. Chiropractic came from the medical model, from like it just we laid heavy with the philosophy because we knew the power of the body. So Dispenza says your thoughts can heal you, your thoughts can harm you. And the Byron Katie book, Gina, is Loving What Is. It's a fabulous book. Is that the one you're talking about, Byron Katie?
Well, actually, yeah, there's two things. Byron Katie's written a lot of books about questioning your thoughts. She does the work, which is all about the thoughts. What I mentioned, my dear friend Bethany Webb, who's also a stage 4 cancer thriver, wrote a book, My Guru Cancer. So
Wow,
she does the work of Byron Katie. There's two different people here.
Right.
So her book is My Guru Cancer, but that's not Byron Katie's book.
Right, but My Guru Cancer, I want to write that. Guru Cancer by, what's her name?
Bethany Webb.
Wow.
But yeah, the changing your thoughts, I would say check out the work of Byron Katie. She's got a website and big social media following too.
Yeah, Zach, I'll give you the 4 questions. They're really amazing. They're, you question your thoughts and realize that the thought is not true, and that you've been listening to a lie, and that you can also change the thought around.
Right.
And it's a beautiful process. My daughters and I do it all the time. It's like a book that I have on my shelf. It's a powerful, powerful tool. And Byron Katie was very, very ill. I mean, she was, in a halfway house, and her story is really beautiful as well.
Yes, she has a lot of other books too.
What are the other ones? Really, I haven't really gotten into her lately. Like,
I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you look
I think
it up,
they all have to do with the mind and the thoughts. I don't think it's anything so much different.
they're all similar.
So nature, I'm going to say expressing yourself through journaling, through writing, did you have, self-love and compassion? Did you eat anything special? What did you feed? What kind of fuel did you feed your precious body? What did you put into it?
Well, I've always eaten pretty naturally, like no sugar, no gluten. I grew up and my mother was very health conscious. So I didn't go from being one of those people who had a lot of sugar to not. Like my
Wow.
body was already very clean, but I definitely do not eat sugar. I eat very clean, all organic. I do eat more of like a metabolic manner now in the last few years, and that's really helped me. I do, and just to share, I do like a cannabis routine with very low THC, but
I'm all
CBD.
for cannabis. I'm all for cannabis. I use the oil for people's necks when I work on them. I use the cream. I'm all for
Mhm.
medical cannabis. I'm all for anything in moderation.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I
know?
do the tincture is like a medical protocol, and I have for
Beautiful.
years. Um,
Did
yeah,
you use any of that? Did you use any of that for pain?
when I was in a lot of pain, when I had cancer in my bones, yes, that's when I went to see a practitioner, and she told me to take CBG, CBDA, and CBD. So I've been taking that straight for 5 years, twice a day.
Great.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, listen, it's nature, it's natural, and it's there's a huge placebo here. I'm not saying it's not working, but I just listened to some amazing one of Joe's older about just the basic placebo, and it's just there's nothing new under the sun. We need to
True.
understand the power of the placebo and really make it our language, make it our love language. So, so the food thing was not a big issue for you. What about as you got stronger and exercising and moving and strengthening your body and giving back to your body? How did that fit into your healing program?
Well, I have a lovely dog, so I have to walk her every day. So that's good. And I take care of horses. I have 2 horses, so I live a pretty active lifestyle. I have to feed them 3 times a day and scoop.
You are a mermaid. Wait, you are a mermaid. You literally put on a tail and you dive. So, and you're way under the water where it's even heavier. The deeper the water, the heavier, the more resistance. I know about that.
Yeah, yeah. I have gotten into mermaiding the last year and a half. It's been really fun and really healing for me, where I actually wear a mermaid tail and I swim in the ocean. I've swum with whales, turtles, fish. It's been really wonderful. Both my parents passed in the last 2.5 years. So that was really, really painful. So embracing my mermaid self has been very healing. Just it's lovely to be under the water and be in that underwater realm. And so I think also I want to speak about finding joy, really tapping into joy, because that's what mermaiding has been for me. Like, to enjoy life and embrace joy is so important to heal, because we can get so in the hamster wheel in this world of like, got to do this, 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 this. And, but to find time to do things that bring you joy, whatever it may be, is vitally important to give your body the positive endorphins too.
Tara, that is so important, and it's mentioned a lot in one of my teachers' programs, Dr. David Hanscom, who was a former spinal deformity surgeon, and he's now fully into the mind body world. Um, he himself had 20 symptoms. He couldn't cross the bridge without a panic attack, and he stopped doing surgery because he saw this mind body effect. He talks often about play and joy, and I underestimated even in my own treatment, um, my own program, and just not realizing that people that get TMS, this sort of mind body or even diseases, like it's hard not to be sucked into the black hole and to stop and have fun. Like, but you're saying not fun's different. I like the way you phrased it. Talk more, like, how does one bring joy when they're fearful, or they're
Hmm.
angry, or they're sad?
I think that's a great question. And it can be very subtle too. It's sort of that Aloha Ma thing I'm talking about, of like, if you're in a great place of physical pain or emotional pain too, with the death of a loved one, I think it can be even so tiny as looking out the window and seeing a tree and recognizing the beauty of the tree, or, you know, something so simple as going for a walk and letting your body relax a little bit and start to feel joy and appreciation of life. I mean, even if you're caught into a pain cycle, just allowing that to come in a little bit can be incredibly healing. And then it's like anything, the more you allow yourself to feel something, you can just grow it. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym after not going for 10 years and all of a sudden you're in shape. You have to build upon it. So this
Yeah.
is with your thoughts and emotions, like to build upon that expression of joy and relaxation in the body.
You know, and I always say, and this is a real Dispenza point, that even if you don't like it, you can do it and play the role, like fake it till you make it. Because if you even imagine yourself swimming or imagine yourself like having a good chemo experience, the
Right.
brain, you know, the conscious mind will believe it's true. And there's this whole thing with imagination. And I want to move into if your meditation, which is part of this mindfulness awareness. But I'm happy to meet you, Jonathan. I don't really know you, but I'm happy that you came on the broadcast. Um, oh, you're just, I see. I'm gonna have to delete you. Anyway, it's a scammer. He wants to talk about his dream. So just on my Facebook page. It happened last week also. It's interesting. I think opening myself up to more people, but it's okay. If you need to do this for yourself, go ahead. It doesn't bother me. So talk more. I know. Talk more, Tara, about mindfulness and how that played in, because obviously you were minding your thoughts, being more aware of your thoughts, letting go in a way, which I call kind of a letting go in order to have a type of control and a sense and a stability. Was there any kind of meditation? Was that the nature? Was anything specific that you did or that you recommend in your book?
I mean, certainly meditation is a wonderful thing. I do have to say, when I was doing chemotherapy, it can be very arduous, mentally challenging, a bit like going through hell. That was my experience. So in that experience, like, you're really faced with your shadows, which can be a beautiful thing. It can be really hard, and I think it tears some people down. But and I also I want to bring up the power of like plant medicine too, taking medicine journeys. That's something I've done the last few years, just to really clear my head and
Wow.
visualize cancer being gone. So I think, meditation is great as a daily process, and that's something I definitely encourage people to do. But for me, like, once in a while to do these medicine journeys has been really helpful, just to bring me back to a place of clarity and release the stuff, because we build up so much stuff.
Ara,
Like,
I'm hearing more and more about this, and it's fascinating. I mean, fascinating, some of what I'm reading, and I'm meeting some really special people, and it's having to do with trauma
right.
and coming back to yourself, because in itself we're all traumatized human beings once we come into the world, and how
Yeah.
do we manifest that? So that's beautiful, and I'm so happy you brought that up. I'm really happy, and I think with the right people, with the right support, it's an incredible process. I'm definitely, so it wasn't like you did any specific meditation per se.
I mean, I did work with Joe Dispenza's meditations for a bit, and there's a lot online you can watch on YouTube for
No.
free. And just using the power of the mind, switching your thoughts. Like, and I still have to work with it. I live in this cancer world where I have many friends working with cancer or living with cancer. And some of them sadly aren't doing well. And that's very hard on me, because I'm a reflection of them and we're very close. So I need to really step back and go, okay, this is what's happening with them, which doesn't mean it's happening with me. So this is an ongoing process. It's not like my brain is like, okay, I'm fine. It's like, no, I'm human, and these doubtful thoughts come in. So
Sure. No, there's cancer cells dancing around in all of us.
yes. Yes,
Zach wants
exactly.
to know what the plant medicine means. I think we didn't say the exact words. You want to share with him what you mean by plant medicine?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can do. There's combo, it's frog medicine. I talk about that in my book. It's from South America. There's ayahuasca, MDMA, MDA, mushrooms. I mean, it's getting to be very mainstream, at least in the United States now, where you can go to practitioners and do therapeutic appointments or sessions where there's therapy involved with the
Mhm.
plant medicine. So they're guiding you and holding space. There's events you can go to with large groups of people doing it too. I definitely, personally for me, the cancer thing is not a big deal for me now. Like it doesn't bother me and it doesn't stress me out. But like I said, my parents died in the last 2.5 years, and there's been a lot of trauma for me to work through, particularly around my dad's death. That was very quick, and we were very close. So I've had to do a lot of working through trauma around his death. So the plant medicine has really helped me with that, to work through these painful memories and just, the sudden death of my father and my mother too. So yeah, ketamine can be one of them, hallucinogenics. It's basically, there's so many different blends of them, and you can do them in different ways. And I do advocate working with a practitioner who works with people in this way, in a very safe container, who can distribute the medicine in a way that they know that you won't be
Right.
overly high, so to
Right.
speak. I've
And
definitely had.
my theory, tell me if I'm being a little naive, is that once we have that experience, or once we understand what the potential is in our brain, whether we get help by medicine or not, we can be that. That's the
Yeah,
placebo. We can be the plant medicine. We can be the ketamine. We can be like the anti-inflammatory, the anti-anxiety. I mean, and this Dr. Hanscom talks a lot about anxiety is not here to hurt us. Trauma is not here to hurt us. Trauma is in our system. We can use it to serve us. And I
that's
think,
beautiful.
so I think it's really important to not feel like, oh, I got to do that therapy or I got to do that plant medicine. It's more like it's an option. And some of us are real stuck and we're on that hamster ring, or we don't really have the knowledge. And maybe I know people do one experience of the plant medicine and that's what they needed. Like I've heard it saved marriages, it saved people from committing suicide. It's like it's there
Yeah,
for the taking. It's our world, it's our nature. And I want people to feel hope and to feel like there's always a way out. But
right.
ultimately it's the relationship with the plant medicine. Like it's your relationship with what happened. Even big trauma therapists will say it's not the trauma, it's your experience of it, it's your memory of it. And that's what needs to be healed. That's the reclaiming and the
Right.
rescue.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I think, therapy is great. The work I do with humans and horses is very powerful. But the reason why once in a while I will do plant medicine, I don't do it regularly. Like in this period of great transformation, I've done it once every 5 or 6 months. It helps me access parts of my brain that I can't normally access in everyday life. And it helps move things through, move the shadows and the cobwebs through to a place where I can find clarity and come back to that place of I am healing, I am
This is
healed.
what I've heard. I mean, it's you know, like I always say, somebody wants to smoke a cigarette and calm down. You want to smoke a joint and calm down. Just know what what you're calming. You're not shutting it down. You're exposing, opening. And sometimes we'll do those things and, the cigarette or the joint to close ourselves because we don't want to feel. And you're like, no, I'm taking this so I can feel. I just would like a little bit of support because it's going to hurt. And you're like, I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
Right.
So I'm all for it. And I'm happy that you're talking about this. I'm really happy about that you're talking about this. Um, anything else that you want to share? We're going to round up in a few minutes. But I want people to know that, first of all, Tara is very much on Instagram. and you have your Facebook under your name, also under your, is there another, you have two Facebook pages?
I have a lot of different social media pages. I have a Facebook page under my name. I have Tara Coyote's Healing Journey. I have a YouTube channel, Tara Coyote, Instagram page, TikTok. Yeah, if you put my name in Tara Coyote, you can find me pretty much everywhere.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. And I just want to say, like, you know, when I was very involved with Dana and Chrisana, who made the movie Love Heals, they ended up getting hired by someone to do something about horses. And then you
they're
were
creating their own film. It's their own project.
Oh, it's their project. I thought somebody hired them.
No, they're doing it on their own. They're being very bold. Yeah.
And then they ended up getting very close with Anita Morjani. And I think their next movie is to do a movie with Anita, who healed also fatal cancer. And her book is Dying to Be Me.
Yes. Yes.
Lord. And I always say, and I'll say it 1,000 times, you don't need to be the Dalai Lama to heal yourself. You don't need to be anybody elevated. You just have to be human and loving and compassionate and hopeful with will. And I know that people do die, and sometimes they do all these things. And I'm not here to talk about that, you know, because I don't know people. I just know that what's possible, the possibilities and the hope. And, you know, I meet some really brave people, and I'm here meeting you. And I think we're all brave to grow up in this world. It's not an easy world we're living in, and we need to be brave. We need to be brave and courageous. And if we didn't see it growing up, well, surround yourself with brave and courageous people. You know, put a Tara in your life. Bump into a Tara in your life. That'll help you. That'll give you a dose. Put on a mermaid outfit. Get your feet wet. Doesn't have to be the Pacific Ocean in Hawaii. So, what would you like to leave the listeners with? So inspirational. Thank you so much. What else would you like to say and share?
Thank you. I just like to remind people that you are so much stronger than you think you are, that we have a great capacity for healing, and just to believe in yourself and in your body's capacity to heal, whether it's mind, body, or soul, whatever you're healing, just to believe in your infinite power of healing. That's what I would say to part with.
Wow. It's beautiful. So I always say, I want a sequel. I want you to come back. We're going to talk about something else. Maybe we're going to have, I have a couple of people who want to talk about plant medicine, and I think there may be something important, a very important tool for us and for the future, and to combine nature and our brain and our thoughts. And also, we can't do this alone. We need help. We need support. And that's what this broadcast is all about, support. And so you hit on a number of amazing points. And I really appreciate you getting up early in the morning. And so happy you've been so responsive and so supportive, and just a great team player here on this broadcast and leading up to it. So I am blessed and thankful. And thank you for leaving your pixie dust into my studio, my virtual studio. Thank you, the internet. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you to the internet. Thank you to the internet gods of the world. I guess I'm a little interdependent on you. I'll admit that. And, you know, if I can help you in any way, I'm here. And I know that I would love to send people to you. And wow, horses is not so much my thing, but I'm living by the Mediterranean Sea, and can imagine, maybe I'll put on a mermaid outfit and come visit you.
Oh, yes. Swim over my way.
They make little ones for me. I'm little.
Oh, yeah, they make all sorts of sizes.
Do you actually buy these? Do you buy a mermaid fin?
Yeah, that's a big check out Mer People on Netflix. You can find out all about it.
There's a whole world.
A whole world to discover.
Great. Wishing you a wonderful day, you and your your holy animals and your family, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone who listened. It was an honor to be with you. Sending you love from
Bless
Hawaii.
everyone. God bless everyone. All the best. We're gonna say goodbye. Okay, we're off.